Welcome to Talking with Yourself, a podcast designed as a place to learn new things, talk about navigating the world, dealing with mental health, and just life in general. I'm your host, Sam Preston, and thank you so much for being here. Now, let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Happy Friday. I am here joined with another amazing guest, and I would love if you could introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Sam. So, my name is Andrea. I am currently a student at Yorkville in the MACP program. So, I am looking to become a registered psychotherapist. What kind of led me in this direction to become a psychotherapist is because I guess it would be a long time ago now when I was an undergrad, I started in business and then I did electives in psychology and realized how much I absolutely love psychology. So I switched into the psychology major. And then I realized pretty quickly that this is what I wanted to do with my life. So when I went back to see the guidance counselor in order to kind of go into what I really wanted to do as child psychologist, they informed me that I was going to have to go back to first year because I had only taken psych as electives. So I wasn't in the science vein of psychology. So I was going to have to go back to first year, do all of first year, do a master's and a PhD, which was obviously quite shocking to me in that moment. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And so I ended up just graduating with my master's of arts in psychology. And at that time, I don't know that the path to becoming a psychotherapist was as defined as it is now. Like, I don't think there were as many masters of arts and counseling psychology programs as you kind of see out there today. So I ended up going into the auto industry for over a decade. So I worked in management within that industry for a decade. And then now I am the proud mom of two little babies. So I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And when I was on mat leave, I was like, you know what? I don't really think I want to go back into the auto industry. So I'm going to need to figure out what I'm going to do next. And on my second mat leave with my youngest, that's when I realized that I would really love to be a psychotherapist. And I found Yorkville and realized that I could do that while also being a mom and have that flexibility of doing fully online school and being a mother. And here we are.
That's amazing. The one thing that I love now is that schools will do like online schooling and other things, and it's so easy to like work it around your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes it so much easier to be able to do everything that you want to do when you are a mom, especially. Because for me, my priority was always I want to pick my kids up from school. I didn't want going, because in the auto industry, you're working from easily 9 to 5 if you have the lucky Monday to Friday work at a dealership, which is rare. Most people work 6 days a week, 5 days a week, one day off during the week, but every Saturday. And so for me, it was all about the fact that I wanted to be a mom first. I wanted to be able to be at the field trips, pick them up from school. And so my priority was figuring out how I could do that. And by doing school online, that allowed me to have that flexibility to be able to do it at night when they're asleep or very early in the morning or whatever works. So it's really, really a nice option.
It still let you be present for them, which is exactly what you're wanting, and it's perfect. Do you find it difficult to juggle school and being a mom and just trying to live your life in general?
I would say yes. Like, there are times where I do find it challenging, especially when I have like a really big assignment due and I have to, let's say, work in the evenings when they're still awake. That is challenging to have them understand I need to do my work. I'm not going to be around for dinner tonight or whatever. They're just so little and they don't understand that. And I do let them know that they are more important than my school. And so I never want them to feel like I am not with them because school is more important to them. So I always inform them that they are more important than my school and that mommy just has to go upstairs and do that. But I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm fortunate enough right now to not be working a full-time job, being a mother, and doing school. And I have peers who are doing that, and they are superheroes. Like, I cannot commend them enough for how challenging that would be to manage working full time, being a mother, and also doing school. That I am fortunate enough to say that I don't have that added stress in this moment. But it's still, I'm not going to downplay the fact that school and taking care of two young children is a lot.
I know, like, when I was in school, to me, just being in school was stressful enough. Like, I could not imagine having any extra responsibilities beyond, like, my schoolwork. So I commend you. Like, I don't can't understand how hard that would be for you. Like, it must be a lot of work. I'm sure it'll be very rewarding in the end, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things how I kind of try to justify it to myself in this moment is, what if I was working a full-time job and I was commuting to and from the office, and that in itself is challenging, right? Like being a
Yeah.
parent in 2025 and making money to support your family, everybody is, it's always challenging whether you're working or you're in school. There's a part of you that just wants to be home with your children, and there's a part of you that needs to follow those steps in order to keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table. Everybody's in kind of that rat race, I guess, in order to support their families. And so that's where I see it. I go, okay, so I'm either working, commuting, or working from home 9 to 5, which is the standard hours, or I'm putting the work in at school. And so it really does, because I get to be at home doing school, it does give me that flexibility. And that is, that does make it a lot easier.
How do you even find time to just have you time? Like, between everything that you've got going on, especially like children take up so much time, like in your day, school must take up like the other portion of that. How do you find time for just you?
So, one of the things that I try to do is I try to take the deadline. So, with Yorkville, the deadlines for your like big assignments are every Sunday. And I don't know, has anybody ever kind of gone over how Yorkville like works through the terms with
I
you?
don't believe so, no.
So, Yorkville is based on, most of the courses are 5 weeks long. Some of the courses are 10 weeks long, but they're rare. I think there's only two, maybe three that have been 10 weeks long. You do one course in the 5 weeks, and that is intensive. Learning the entire course over the 5 weeks can be quite a bit. What you're doing is you're writing discussion questions, and you typically have 3 assignments. And those assignments will be spread out throughout, like either weeks 2, 3, and 4. The assignments will be due weeks 2, 3, and 5. It all depends. Those are always due on Sunday nights. And so, how I try to take time for myself is, if I can, I pretend that deadline is Friday night. So, if I can get everything done by that Friday night, then I'm able to give myself the weekend to kind of reset, refresh, and spend some time with my family and with my children. That has been very life changing for me. There's been courses where the assignments have either taken me a little bit longer for whatever reason. Maybe the assignment's more challenging. I'm having trouble doing the research, or in this program, a lot of it is self analysis. So sometimes it does get a little bit challenging analyzing yourself or your family, and that can be a little bit emotionally heavy. So it can take you a little longer to work through the assignments. And so when I do find that it bleeds into my weekend, that's when I start to feel more stressed out. That's when I start to realize, like, I haven't taken a break for myself in a while. I've been working all day, taking care of the kids all night. I need a minute and a break instead of doing like 7 days a week of working. When that happens, I notice a difference. But if I can stick to my Friday night deadline, I feel a lot better.
Oh, there's absolutely a huge difference when you don't take time to yourself, especially in school. School is such a demanding thing, and there's always something going on, something to be done. More just it keeps piling on, and you burn out so quickly if you don't do a little bit of self-care, don't focus on you every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. The stress management and the self care is so, so important. And just being able to make it through. Because I agree, school, like my undergrad, doing this, school is a different beast than working. When you work, you clock out at whatever time you get to leave. And hopefully for everybody, you get to leave some of that at work and not take it home, which I know is not realistic, but you don't necessarily in a lot of industries, in the auto industry, I didn't have homework that I had to do in the evening. So you would get home and you would actually be able to reset and relax, or you would have your weekend or whatever day was your day off. Whereas with school, I feel like there's always something that's lingering on your mind. You're like, I could be working on this assignment. I should be doing this reading. I could be getting ahead. And so that for me is something that I feel is important management and self-care, especially in school.
That's something that's probably the biggest thing I noticed, the difference in after I had graduated, and where now that it's a little bit different now that I'm looking at going back to school, but beforehand when I was just working and I'm just working my jobs, you're right, I clock out, I come home, and there's nothing in the back of my mind. And it was like almost the weirdest feeling after spending literally 90% of my life in school where I quote unquote clock out of school and I go home and there's still something in the back of my mind about school of like, hey, you have to get this assignment done. Hey, don't forget in a couple days, like you're starting this project, you have to meet with this person. So you're absolutely right. And there's that biggest difference between the two where school is just always in the back of your mind. And it's so hard to, even when you're taking a break, to push those thoughts like back and to kind of forget about them.
Yeah. That's one of the things when I was in my undergrad and I needed to do like go back to first year, do the master's in the P, I was like, I don't know that I can, at this point in my life, with the coping mechanisms that I have, handle that. Because for me, that never being able to clock out, that overthinking, that always needing to be planning, get ahead, try to figure out how to make my life feel less anxiety ridden and stressful was very challenging for me. I found my undergrad, especially, to be quite anxiety inducing because I never felt like my mind was free or clear unless I was on summer or on a like extended break from school, like Christmas vacation or something like that.
Even then, like, it's I don't know if it was the same for you, like, obviously everybody's experience is different, but I remember being on, like, Christmas break or summer break, and even then just in the back of my mind being like, "Oh, I only have, like, this amount of time, and then I'm going back to school, and then the work begins." And it was, like, almost this rush to do fun things and make the most of your break before you had to go back into school, and, like, part of it didn't even feel like that much of a break in reality.
Yeah, true. The countdown was always on. You're like, I
Yeah.
only have 30 more days of freedom.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah.
Do you have any tricks now that you're older and back in school? Do you have any tricks on how you're pushing kind of that I know you mentioned, like, getting things done earlier so you have the weekend. Do you have any other tricks of just kind of pushing those things to the very back of your mind and hopefully forgetting about them for a little bit, enough to relax?
Yeah, so I feel like one of the things that you just mentioned there, I feel like being a mature student for me has really changed my perspective, number one. When I was in my early 20s and I was in school, I feel like it's unless you're one of the lucky students who went in knowing you wanted to be an engineer or you wanted to be a psychologist or whatever, if you went into university knowing or college knowing what you wanted to be, I'm going to be an electrician, a plumber, whatever that was, I always was jealous of those people because I was like,
Yeah.
such a nice thing to know exactly what you want to do, go into school and work towards that goal. And my undergrad for me, it was an experiment. It was a what makes me tick? What do I like? What am I going to go for? And then when I realized that in third year, it almost felt too late. And that's something that I find is kind of disappointing and challenging with an undergrad. We're so young. You enter at like 18 years old. How do you know exactly what you want to do and what you want to be? And right now, for me, something that helps me manage this program more than my undergrad is I'm more mature. I definitely have better coping mechanisms, and we can go more into that. But also, I think the fact that because I'm more mature, because I've taken the time, because this need to be a psychotherapist and to work in this field has never gone away since I was in undergrad over a decade ago, that made me realize this is what I want to do. And when you're working in school towards something that you really want to do, school feels different. The work feels different. The readings feel different. Everything just
Absolutely.
is much more interesting. You have the dedication because you know this is something that you're going to use and you're going to do. And I need to learn this in order to be competent in my career. And so that feels very different. It impacts my motivation level. But at the same time, like you said, it does kind of require the need for these coping mechanisms, for these ways to push things to the back. Because when you're so dedicated and motivated, there are times where you are really bought in. And what I would say, the first thing that I've been working on and that I've been doing in managing this is just noticing my symptoms of stress. Because I think a lot of the times people just chug ahead, put their head down, keep working, and ignore the fact that their body is screaming at them. I am overwhelmed. I am stressed out. We need to do some self care or take a break or do something in order to allow us to continue moving forward. And what I found in my life is anytime I ignore those like stress signals that my body is giving me, eventually my body says to me, like, either you do something or I'm going to do something. And it's going to be the flu or it's going to be strep throat or it's going to be have some way my body will make me rest and relax. And so what I tend to notice when I'm stressed is I get a little bit more irritable. I find that I'm just like, things bother me a little bit more than they should or do when I'm not stressed. I definitely feel the worrying and more anxious. Like my mind continues to go, or I get that like fluttery stomach, like upset feeling, like tight chest. Those types of things are going on for me. And then sometimes what I do find is when I am stressed out, one thing that I think is very good to pay attention to when you're stressed is what are you neglecting? And that is a very important thing to notice because when we neglect the things that really are our self care, our stress levels just continue to increase and are really not being managed. So, in times of high stress for me, or times where I'm really busy at school or I have an assignment due, I just drop everything else. I neglect everything else in my life. I don't do the exercise that I should be doing or I usually would do. My diet will change. Like my breakfast will go from being something that I'm like willing to take the time to make eggs on toast, and now I'm like holding a Cliff Bar instead, eating that while I'm sitting at my computer. Or it'll be like 2 in the afternoon and I'll still be in my pajamas, unshowered, sitting at my computer working through an assignment because I sat down way too early because I could feel myself stressed and worrying about getting something done. And instead of first taking care of myself, having that shower, getting dressed, eating properly, maybe doing a 30-minute walk outside or an exercise, and then sitting down. I neglect all of that, sit down way too early, and then finally lift my head mid-afternoon and go, oh, I should have maybe stopped and paid attention to kind of the trajectory of my day. And so now what I really try to do is I really try to take a minute in the morning and realize like where I'm at. Like, what am I sitting with today? Because there's days where I wake up and I'll have my coffee and that coffee will hit me a lot differently than it does on other days. And I will feel the stress. I will feel the worrying about the things that I need to get done. And if I don't get them done on time, I won't have my weekend to be with the kids. If I'm able to notice how I'm feeling and how I'm going into my day, I can put coping mechanisms in place before I get super stressed out. And so those coping mechanisms for me are typically just like doing some breathing exercises, changing the way that I'm thinking. That has been a really big eye-opening change for me, especially since starting this program. Um, recognizing through like cognitive behavioral therapy that my thoughts impact my feelings, which impact my behaviors. And that kind of triad of those three has been pretty life changing for me. So if I start to recognize, what am I thinking right now? What are my thoughts? Like, am I going through my head, you need to get this done. If you don't, you could fail. You won't get to spend time with your kids. Like, how are these thoughts translating into the fact that I'm now sitting here in my pajamas at 8:30 a.m. instead of taking the half hour to shower? So when I recognize those moments of going, I really need to pay attention to the thoughts that are running through my brain. Are they more negative? Are they more stress inducing? And change those to, it's okay to take time for yourself before you start your day. Do that first. Or things are not going to fall apart. You have the time. You have never not met the deadline. Everything is fine. If I change the thoughts to be more reassuring or more positive, I do find that I feel a lot better.
We are in such a work heavy culture where it's almost normalized to like go, go, go. And it's a normal part of your day to be stressed and be overwhelmed and to be sitting at your computer from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. just doing schoolwork or work or whatever it is that your day and your productivity looks like. So I think it's an important like internal narrative to talk yourself through the thought process. Take a little bit of time in the morning to get yourself a good breakfast, shower, get out of your pajamas. I don't think people realize how much just those little routines affect your attitude and your work ethic.
100%. And I think just being parents, I mean, being a parent, you have all the other responsibilities that go along with also being a student. And so, I mean, I could say that it's just something that happens to moms, but it's really not, because dads also go through, like, especially if you're working from home, you're trying to do your work while also taking care of your lifestyle. And so, when you are trying to go, okay, I have all this stuff that I need to do for school or for work or whatever that is. And then you also go, and I have like 2 loads of laundry that I'm behind, and the kitchen's a mess, and the kids' toys are all over the house. It's really, I feel like there's a part of it where, like you said, we're in this culture of go, go, go all the time. You need to be working all the time. You need to be taking care of your home all the time because you're on Instagram and you see all of these perfect houses and all of these moms or dads who are able to do it all. And how are they able to do it all? But I'm not able to do it all. And there's this comparison culture too that I do find comes up. And what I think is very, very important is, again, paying attention to those thoughts that are going through your head and giving yourself grace in recognizing that it's okay if your bed isn't made this morning. It's okay if there's like dirty dishes in the sink. Like, that is all very okay. We don't need to be perfect all the time. We don't need to be doing everything exactly the way that we've set these like specific expectations of ourselves. And when we hold ourselves to those like rigid attitudes, those rigid beliefs of perfectionism, and I need to do this and this has to be completed, my house needs to be perfect, and I also need to be ahead on my school and doing amazingly in my work and the best parent and the best friend, I feel like that's kind of a recipe for stress and a recipe for like a decrease in mental health.
It's absolutely a bit of a downward spiral. I think if I every morning woke up and went, okay, my bed needs to be made, my room needs to be clean, I'm gonna vacuum the house and put away everything, do my dishes, make myself breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I I'd be burnt out and not wanting to get out of bed within probably less than a day, if I'm honest with myself. And I think you're right in that, like, what you mentioned with Instagram of you're looking at all of these people who are supposedly doing it all with clean houses and all these amazing things, and it's one thing I try to remember when I'm scrolling through a social media app and I see something like that. Social media is a lot of the times this person's job. So they are not trying to balance like an outside job and keeping their house clean and all of these things with their kids and school. It's their job is to do these things. And so of course they're going to make it look perfect because it's their job, if that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Um and I definitely think comparison is a big killer, especially when you have so many other stressors already going on. If you're in school or working or have kids, comparison is a very deep slope.
Yes, it is. And what I love the accounts, like just speaking of Instagram, I love the accounts where they show you the perfect, where they go like, this is what Instagram is. We're all just showing each other, unless you're specifically aimed at showing the fact that your life is not perfect in order to kind of normalize or equalize that scale. But I love the accounts that go like, this is my perfect, let's say, Christmas decor, because we're heading into Christmas season, but then they turn the camera and show that behind them, it's just an absolute mess of everything that they've had to take out
Yes.
and do in order to curate the perfect content, So remembering, that's something that I always try to remember with myself, is a lot of the times on Instagram, people are showing the perfect moments. They're not necessarily showing the realistic moments. It's what are we willing to share and what are we looking at? And I think sometimes that can get diluted in our heads, where when all we're seeing is people's perfect moments, we forget that there's a whole other side to people's lives that are not perfect, and that's okay, that's really what life is like. We do make mistakes, we do leave things to last minute. There are dishes built up in the sinks of most people's homes. Like, it's okay to allow yourself to take some time for you, to take some time to spend with your loved ones, whether that is children, if you're a parent, whether that's your friends or your family. It's okay to let those things go in order to manage your stress and in order to practice the self-care that is so necessary in order to just keep ourselves feeling mentally healthy and present and really just happy overall.
Yeah, it's absolutely at the end of the day, unfortunately, something that's easier said than done too. We can sit here all day and preach just you have to keep track of your stress and spend time with the people that you love and all of these things. But in such of a work heavy culture, how does somebody do that? Do you have any tips for somebody to kind of manage that a little easier and actually try to make time in their day for the things that they enjoy?
It's such a good question, and it's so like individual. It's so there's some people where you can sit down with them and they truly, when they go through their day, it's like, I don't even have a minute. But I think that that is the most important thing, is to take a second and truly focus on yourself. Truly focus on what you need. Because if we don't actually sit down, whether that's by ourselves, whether it's with a psychotherapist who has the skills and the tools to help you kind of prioritize things, it's so important to take the moment to go, this is my day. I wake up at this time and I go to bed at this time. And between these hours, I am at work. And I'm telling myself right now that I don't have time to eat healthy because I don't have time to make a meal. And when you look at that and go, I can't make a meal, or I can't exercise, or I can't spend time with my family, I challenge people to kind of take a minute to really look at the validity of that statement. When we break down our day, do we really not have 20 minutes in the day to be able to get outside for a walk? Is that truly a realistic statement? And so for some people, it truly might be. Like, I'm not saying that there's nobody in life where you sit down and look at their schedule and you're like, wow, you actually don't have 20 minutes. Like, this is crazy. But like for myself, for example, during these stressful moments when I'm now not taking care of the fact that I could go for a 20-minute walk or make a healthy meal, I wake up at 7 a.m. every day. Could I get up at 6:30? I absolutely could. Do I want to? No, but I could do it. And I could add that time in to take care of myself. I could say to myself, Andrea, wake up at 6:30 and have your coffee alone for a minute. Take a minute to just ease into your day. Or on the weekend, why don't you try to batch cook some healthy meals? Or if I'm finding that I'm not cooking, and because for me, that is not my strong suit, cooking healthy meals for myself. Like when my husband isn't around, I eat girl dinners all the time. It's the cereal, the grilled cheese, the
Yeah.
granola bars. So if I know that about myself, and I know that on the weekend, batch cooking food sounds like a very non exciting activity to me, then maybe look into what are those, like the factors or the the food subscriptions that will send you the meal.
Yes.
And so that type of stuff for people is even very, very helpful because you go, well, I'm not going to make the food, but if somebody sends me all the ingredients and the instruction, I can put that together. And that will save some people from neglecting their diet because all of these things are so important for our mental health and for our stress. The proper sleep, the healthy diet, the exercise, the personal hygiene, spending time with the people that we love, taking care of ourselves. If we don't do it now, will impact us in the long run, right? If we just neglect our needs, allow our stress levels to be incredibly high, in the long run, it's not sustainable. It's not a feasible way of living. And so if I understand that in a lot of times we feel like we don't have the time right now. And I get that. I mean, we all live with that. But if we can take a little bit of time to really prioritize ourselves, to either journal it out or write down our what we do in a day so that we can see where we can actually squeeze those little things in, little 5 minutes, 10 minutes, make sure that we go to bed a little bit earlier, recognize the patterns that maybe aren't helpful for us. Like even when we talk about sleep, right? Like what time do you go to bed at night? And what are you doing before you go to bed? Sleep is so important. Are we getting to bed by like 10, 11 o'clock, or are you still up at 2 a.m.? What can we make or tweak or do that will help us to kind of manage our lives a little bit differently? And again, like you said, it's always easier said than done, but it's those little things and those little changes that we notice and we execute that can sometimes make a big difference.
Yeah. And there's nothing that says, like, you can't kind of combine them. Like, there's nothing that says I can't make myself a healthy breakfast and go eat it outside.
Yeah.
Or maybe if my point of my day for exercise is yoga, why can't I go do yoga outside? Invite a friend over to do yoga and spend time with somebody I care about. There's, I think, like you mentioned, there's the little ways to kind of up your day. And I don't think people realize how big of a difference those little things actually do make. And if you manage to be able to combine some of those little things, the difference and the kind of reaction that you get later on with yourself and your mindset just completely changes.
Yeah, and I love that idea of combining them. That's such a great point. And I mean, I think one of the things with stress management that I've kind of seen is that what are you spending most of your attention on? And when we spend all of our attention on one area of our life, whether that's our education or our career, whatever that might be, if we don't spread that attention out to other areas, all of our energy and all of our being is put into that one thing. And if something goes wrong there, if you fail a test or if you get let go from your job or whatever, the amount of stress from the fact that you are fully focused on that area is magnified because you don't have your attention spread out into other things in order to help you kind of manage a stressful incident in that one specific area. So if we're only focusing, like let's say I'm only focusing on school to the detriment of my spending time with my family, to the detriment of spending time with my friends or my spirituality or anything like that. Let's like you name it. If I'm not putting my attention across multiple different areas. When a problem occurs in the only thing that I'm paying attention to, it doesn't allow me to spread that tension and that stress out by relying on a friend, by relying on my spirituality, by relying on my self-care mechanisms, by anything like that, because you're so focused on the one thing. And so when that I think that that's a good thing to pay attention to, is how much energy am I giving into the different areas of my life? And by doing that, so like you said, by not just focusing only on school, but recognizing I need to do the self-care of exercise and bringing a friend in to do that, that is allowing you to keep that spread out, the stress spread out across different avenues, and using the different coping mechanisms to be able to help you manage what's going on in that one specific area, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's also important to kind of prioritize certain areas of your life. And not to say like, oh, I have to prioritize school and it becomes my whole life. Because, like you were saying, if that's your one main point of focus because you chose to prioritize school, when something goes wrong in that area, everything else kind of blows up for you. But almost prioritizing the little things. And like we talked about, like what you see in a perfect house on Instagram or something, it's like, okay, do I prioritize? I know I have this big assignment that's due tomorrow and I'm not fully finished it yet. So, do I prioritize making my bed or making myself a good meal and then going off and doing my project? It's like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice making my bed, but I'm not going to sacrifice a good breakfast to work on this project a little earlier. And so, I think spreading your priorities out amongst different things, as well as like having little priorities within those things, is probably, I don't want to say perfect. I hate using the word perfect, but it's a pretty good balance. I think that will help when something in one area does explode. You're right. You can kind of ripple it all throughout your other areas and your other priorities to help lessen that blow.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like if one becomes rocky and it's your only point that you're noticing, it becomes very challenging to cope with that.
Yeah.
Whereas if school is rocky for me, let's say if I'm doing a really challenging assignment for one reason or another, and all I have is school because I've neglected everything else, that becomes a lot more stressful. But when I'm able to go to my friend and say I'm feeling really stressed about school, and they're able to validate how I'm feeling and allow me to kind of just vent to them, that's a big deal. Or if my relationship is going very well with, let's say, my husband, and I can rely on him, that's super helpful. Or I know that I can go to the gym and play pickleball with some of my friends, and that will help to release the stress. That's nice to have those mechanisms to kind of branch out to and rely on. And if you've neglected all of those, makes it a little bit more challenging to turn to that really quickly in those points where you're like, I need some help here.
Yeah. It's definitely important to make sure you have those other parts of your life to rely on for sure.
hmm And even just admitting to yourself or recognizing that maybe you do need a little bit of help. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I'm feeling really stressed out lately. I don't know how to manage this and I need help. Whether that's from talking to your friends or family, whether it's from seeking the help of a professional, whether it's from just taking a step back for a minute and allowing yourself to like decompress, return back to baseline so that you can think clearly about what the options are and what the best decision is to make in that moment. That is really a very like healthy way of being able to deal with the stress instead of just allowing it to become all consuming and weigh you down.
Absolutely. I remember, like, in my own undergrad, sometimes even just mentioning to a friend, "Hey, I'm feeling a little bit stressed right now." Even just admitting it to somebody and talking about it, it was a really big help in of itself.
Absolutely. To have that validation or to talk to another student who's in the program and they're also feeling the same way, it can really normalize that for you where you go, oh, okay, it's not just me. I'm not just the one who is struggling with this assignment or feeling a little bit more stressed out than usual. Hearing from other people who are in the same boat, who maybe have some better coping mechanisms than you and can kind of help you understand how to put those in place to better take care of yourself. It's a really great thing.
We seek to relate to people, and that's how you connect with people. And so I think just being able to talk to somebody who can relate to you, and like you said, maybe they have coping mechanisms that you've never thought of, or you even just have that connection with them of, hey, I'm stressed too, and I have all of these assignments and I don't know what to do. It definitely lessens the blow. It kind of makes you feel less alone when you're struggling with something like stress.
Absolutely. And that feeling less alone is so important. That having that support network around you is so incredibly important. Whether it's another student, whether it's your mom, whether it's your friend, like it anybody that you can kind of just share how you're feeling with, who's going to give you that listening ear and be able to help walk you through that, or at least allow you to just vent to them. It's a big deal. And I recognize that not everybody has that. So it's easy to talk about that and to say, hey, yeah, contact your mom, contact your friend. But there might be some listeners on here who go, yeah, that would be really nice, but I don't have those people to rely on. And in those instances, there are other ways that you can vent to people. There's crisis lines that you can call, which you don't necessarily need to be in crisis to call and have a conversation with somebody on the other line about how you're feeling, discuss different coping mechanisms and different ways of dealing with that. If you have a therapist, you could talk to them. You could go to like a professor or something like that that you might have a decent relationship with. Um, it's opening up the doors to other avenues if it's not so readily available. Who can I talk to? Who can I kind of reach out to for help in that way, or at least for a listening ear?
Absolutely. And we even touched on, if you don't necessarily, maybe you don't have that circle of confidence, or you don't maybe feel comfortable going to somebody else to talk about it. It's maybe not something that you're wanting to do. We talked about things like, taking time to yourself in the morning to just kind of build yourself up for the day, or going out on a walk, or getting a little bit of exercise where you can. Do you have any other tips for people who maybe don't feel quite confident going and talking about their stresses to somebody else?
You could journal it if you're into writing or even typing. You could get it out in that way, get those feelings out either by writing them down. And I know for me, journaling for the longest time, it didn't seem that appealing because I was like, well, I don't really like, no matter what I'm writing, I don't want anybody to kind of read through what I'm going through by accident. People are always like, well, if I write it down, maybe somebody will read it. But you can always write things down and journal them and then destroy them. That's a very cathartic exercise. Write something down and then rip it up and throw it out and just kind of be rid of those feelings in a way, right? Or you, write it in a Word document and then don't save the document and delete it, but at least it's an outlet and a way that you can get how you're feeling out of your body, get rid of it. I think that that's a great option. For, like I said already in our conversation, paying attention to how you're thinking. What's going on in your head? Are you helping yourself or are you working against yourself? Are you going, I can handle this? Today is a hard day. I have an assignment due. I can't go and have an hour-long bath or make my bed and clean my house in order to make me feel better. But I can live through these hard feelings and I can get to the other side of this and I will be okay. Even if it doesn't feel good in this moment, I can make it through these tough moments and I can get to the other side. And when I'm on the other side and I have the time, I will take care of myself. I will spend the time to have my bath, to go for my walk, to eat a good meal, to maybe do a 30-minute yoga class if you're into yoga, or to spend some time with a friend. But I think that's what's most important is in the moment when you're stressed and when you go, but I can't take the time away right now because I don't have the time to give. I have this deadline to hit. I have this assignment that I need to get in by X time of the day. Recognizing that I'm not feeling good now, but I can do some breathing exercises to calm myself. And then after that, I can do the self-care that I know I need to do. That's important. And after, do that self-care. Take care of yourself. Bring that stress level back down. And all those ways that we've talked about are great ways of doing it. Going out for the walk, doing exercise, maintaining a healthy diet in the moment, drinking lots of water and staying hydrated, relying on your friends and family. There are copious tools that are unique to each person that does help them feel better. And if it's I don't even know what my coping mechanisms are or what's available, Google has a lot of them. There's a lot, like, yeah, there's so many different ways that you can figure out ones that resonate specifically with you. And that's important. What resonates with you? Doing the breath work for some people, they're like, I can't do breath work, or I can't meditate, or progressive muscle relaxation is also a really good one. But practicing those and learning those from somebody, though, that can be very helpful. But some people also find that it doesn't resonate with them. So what is your thing? What helps you to feel better? And make sure that you're putting that in place during or after these times of stress.
Yeah, just like your stress is an individual experience, so is your coping mechanisms. And like you mentioned, there's so many out there that there has to be, like, you will find one that works for you. And it might take a little bit of time, but it'll, like, I don't even know how to put this in that, like, things that don't take a little bit of time, or things that take a little bit of time and are a little bit more effort, are always worth the reward, especially when you're trying to find something that's going to help you in the long run of de-stressing and just getting a little bit back to being you rather than being stressed over whatever is going on in your life.
Right. And I'm sure, like in all of our lives, there's been times when we've been stressed before. And in the past, when you have been stressed out in the past, how did you handle that? Looking at that situation, going, what was helpful that I did, or what was not helpful that I did? So I'm going to try not to do that again this time. But especially looking at the things that were helpful. What did I do last time when I felt really, really stressed out? Did I take a break? Did I go for a walk? Did I actually stop to eat lunch? Did I get ready in the morning before I sat down to do the assignment? What worked? And that can be very telling, because a lot of us are already have these great strengths built into us. And we already have these coping mechanisms that we've used in the past that maybe we didn't even realize. And so looking back on those previous events and how we handled those can be very telling for how we can handle things in the future.
I think it's important to note, you mentioned that we've all experienced stress in the past, and I think not to be a bit of a pessimist, but to just kind of remember that, like, unfortunately, we're going to experience stress again, and the point of these coping mechanisms is not going to be that you do them and you get rid of stress forever and you're never going to be stressed again, but it's more so to manage that stress and lessen how it affects you and the effect it has on your life.
Yeah, that is another great point. We are all going to experience stress. Stress is not anything that any of us are going to ever be fully free from. There's going to be stressful moments in our lives, and that's not when stress becomes a problem. Stress doesn't become a problem when you experience moments of stress, but you have the coping mechanisms in place to be able to alleviate that and go on living a normal stress-free life. I guess normal is not the right word, but a like more of a like a stress-free life. Stress is going to come up. The problem is when stress becomes chronic, when stress perpetuates throughout every single day. when you're not able to alleviate that stress for a long period of time, that is when stress becomes very uncomfortable and overwhelming, and you start to feel it more somatically, and you are unable to sleep properly, and you're irritable and you're tired. And that is when stress really like rears its ugly head in a lot of ways. We can't expect to be able to never be in a stressful situation. And I mean, that's what life's all about, right? It's the ups and the downs, and it's really how do you deal with that? That's the big factor. Nobody wants to be in chronic stress. That has such long-term implications. So the most important thing is recognizing when you are stressed. What are those triggers that you notice in yourself where you go, hey, I've been chugging along, not really checking in with myself to see where I'm at. I think that I'm in a really bad spot stress wise right now. How can I help me? What is best? And for me, one of the things that we haven't mentioned that I tend to do in moments where I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed and stressed out is I love a to-do list. I
Yeah,
always do to-do lists, just to get everything kind of out of my brain, out of my head, and onto a page. And I'm able to really see what I need to accomplish. And a lot of the times, what I do find that does for me is it makes it less overwhelming. When I'm able to write it out and see it on a page, I'm like, okay, it's not as much as I thought it was when it was just circling around in my head. This is manageable, and I can work through this step by step. You take this like big overwhelming problem and then you break it down into these more manageable steps, and it really does alleviate that feeling of overwhelm. And it also gives me a little bit of grace too, because I'm able to cross those things off that to-do list, which is always so satisfying.
absolutely.
But when there's some left, that's okay. I didn't get them done today, but I can move them to the next day and go, okay, these were the most important things to me today, and I accomplished those. And I can feel proud of myself for getting that done, and then move the other ones over to the next day, and I can work on those another time.
I'm
Doesn't
myself a very visual person, and I find just having them all laid out somewhere for me even just makes it feel more manageable to begin with.
100%. And it, for me personally, it definitely reduces that like anxiety of I'm going to forget something.
Yeah.
Because when I have 1,000 things going on and I'm trying to remember doing it all, I typically end up dropping a ball and going, "Oh my gosh, I was supposed to do this. I had a doctor's appointment today that I completely forgot about, and now I'm not going." But when I write it out, the immediate release of being like, "Okay, I don't have to carry this anymore. It's here written in front of me. I don't need to keep thinking about the fact that I need to remember to make this call or do this or read that." That in itself for me is very helpful. That's a problem solving technique that I definitely go to all the time.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. I will do big list, especially when I know I have a lot going on. Like I have a meeting to get to, or I have this chore that I said I would do. Like just putting it out on that list is for sure very helpful in keeping track, kind of lessening that stress,
Mhm.
making things, they almost seem smaller when they're on a list. Like, when they're just in my head and I have all of these things bouncing around that I need to do, they feel so big and hard. And when you put them out on a list, they are just the small little task that you just written out or you've typed out or whatever it is. So I
Yeah.
definitely understand how that's helpful.
Yeah, it also helps me to just prioritize it. What's
Yeah.
most important? What do I need to get done first? And that in itself is helpful. Like cleaning the washing machine, I never want to do that. So that can go down to the bottom of the list, right?
Yeah.
The rest of my to-do list is done, then I can clean my washing machine, Like that's not the prioritizing moment, but getting that assignment done or ensuring that I have this form back for my child to be able to take part in a field trip. Those are time sensitive. I need to make sure that I have that done and I get that done. When there's a deadline, you can put that up at the top of that to-do list. But the other little things that you might be putting off are still on there. And they can keep moving day to day, but you still are able to remember that at some point I do need to get to that.
For sure, totally. We
Mhm.
are nearing the end of the episode. So, just as we're kind of coming to a close, do you have anything else you want to quickly add in terms of stress management, self care, anything like that?
I don't think so. I think that in today's world, like you said, it's such a fast paced, pressure filled, overworking way that we live sometimes. And I think it's important for us to recognize that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to give ourselves grace. Nobody else is going to take care of us if we don't take care of us, right? We're the most important person to who we are. And I think that recognizing that and putting ourselves at the top of that to-do list and putting ourselves as the priority is a big deal. Sometimes we do need to remember to love ourselves, and whether we can do that alone or whether we need help from other people, it's important. And I hope that we're all able to recognize that and to do that and to reach out if we need help. There are people out there who care. There are people out there who want to help you. And so that's really my takeaway is take care of yourself, but also let other people help take care of you if you need it.
Those who have tuned into my episodes before know that I usually end by asking my guests to give an affirmation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of felt like an affirmation in of its own, a perfect way to just end the episode.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there any place that listeners can find you if, they're looking for a bit of advice, a bit of help, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I am currently a student, but come January, I will be a practicum student working at Yellow Chair Psychotherapy. So in that at that therapy clinic, what we offer is a pay what you can program. So the students work with clients who maybe don't have insurance, or traditional psychotherapy is something that is outside of their affordability. And so the Pay What You Can program allows you to receive psychotherapy at a decreased rate. The minimum amount would be $25 per session upon qualification, and then it would go up from there based on how much you believe that you can afford in order to receive the service. And so, yeah, that's where I will be working out of from January until August during my practicum with Yorkville.
That sounds amazing and so exciting to be starting.
Yeah,
It must be also a bit of a breath of fresh air to be going from just a constant stress of school to you're finally getting into that career that you really wanna do.
100%. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to meet with people, to help people just kind of move towards living the life that they want to live and increasing their well-being, and that's going to be very fulfilling. So I cannot wait to be doing that.
It sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and all your words of advice to the listeners out there. It's very greatly appreciated, and they know where to find you. You will be at Yellow Chair coming soon, which is awesome.
Yep.
Any final words before we log off this episode?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having me, Sam. This was such a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to listen as well. And keep those stress levels down. Hopefully, you take some of those self care options and apply them to your own life. And I really hope that you don't have to look too far to find one that works for you. Other than that, take care of yourselves and have an amazing day. Bye.